Hello, 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 and welcome to Barely Hoops, Ball in Europe's podcast that is just about basketball, obviously about more than that. And today, my guest, well, how do I describe Lorcan Murphy? He is a former Ireland international in basketball. He is the Irish decathlon champion, which is he may be aware of different things. And in between, he broke his neck, and also he's quite good at art to the point of he teaches it. So we definitely have a guest who fits the definition we go for with this show, folks. But Lorcan, welcome to Barely Hoops, man. Great to talk to you.
Thanks for having me.
Oh no, super. So, dude, first time I'd have seen you play was you were already playing a good while at that stage, but you're like only I think early in the adult stage. It was preseason 2014, and you did this coast to coast dunk in UCD, and I'm kind of going, who is this young fellow with these hops? And of course, over the years, jumping became a thing you were known for, and it's become more of a thing in your other sporting life, which we'll get into in a bit. But I want to just start off by talking to you about like sort of the journey in basketball, like how you got into it and how it all got started.
I think I saw like when I was a kid Vince Carter highlights and I was like, "Oh my God, I want to be like that guy." So as soon as I went to secondary school there was a basketball team led by Maria O'Toole and I was like, "All right, I'm going to do this." And all my mates kind of joined. And at the start like I was a bit take it or leave it. I was interested in rugby as well. But eventually then I noticed, all right, I'm okay at this basketball thing. All my mates are doing it. It's good crack. And we actually went on to win the first year All Irelands and then second year, third year, all the way up. But yeah, just kind of got hooked from it from school. It was nice to have my mates doing it as well. So it was kind of a social thing at first, but then once the level started increasing, I got more and more hooked.
And like, was it Raiders was your first club, was it?
Yeah, so I played in Pres Bray, and then our whole team uh, all played for Raiders as well. It's basically the same team, were Raiders and Pres.
And so what was it like? Because you were going in sort of, I'm guessing it was like 11, 12. You're starting this off, this sport. Like, did you, sort of, was it this sort of this new alien thing to you, or how did you find it like?
Yeah, I was like back like there wasn't any, you weren't watching too many highlights or whatever online. There was none that like kind of access that way. So it was this very like American, like cool, different kind of niche sport at the time. Obviously it was quite popular, but it just in my head that's how I saw it. And so it had that appeal too.
And like, I know you and Neil are ridiculously close. Did it help that he was sort of, one of your best pals to keep your interest in basketball going? Like, was he around back then? Like, was he?
Yeah, so he would have been, I think, 3 or 4 years ahead of me in school. And so I wouldn't have known him really. I started
Okay.
playing and he would have been on the senior team. And like Neil's one of those players that he was good underage, but he kind of just kept getting better and better after the school system. So back then I wouldn't have really known him. He would have probably known me as like a weird little first year or whatever. And I would have just seen him as like one of the 6 years that played. But we only really got close after school, to be honest.
Because I'm bringing Neil up, folks, because Neil's surname is Randolph, and he is from a family which just about gets in roughly as many sports as Lorcan has on his own. So, like, Neil, obviously, Ireland international in basketball as well. His father, Ed, is a legend here, and his brother, Darren, Ireland international in football and youth international in basketball. So, again, they get a lot of sports in. But for you, obviously, basketball was part of your youth, but I'm guessing, I'm assuming you didn't just decide to do athletics straight after you finished basketball. Was track and field part of your life growing up as well?
Yeah, so with the basketball season, obviously the main track season is during the summer. So my parents kind of encouraged me to do a bit of running when I was younger. I did cross country, which I actually think is very good for all athletes. It kind of gives that mental like ability to push yourself. And then during school times, they would have entered me in like high jump competitions and stuff during the summer because I was kind of good at it as a kid. So when basketball was off, before I'd made any international teams or anything, I was off for the summer. So they made me, not made me, but encouraged me to do athletics. And high jump was kind of my event back then. I was underage champion, I think it was under 18. But again, I never really trained for it or anything. It was just kind of a fill the gap of that 2 or 3 months off.
And that's because you're like multi-sports is always encouraged in youngsters, which is great. But like, were you on the radar of Irish underage teams at that stage? Did you make any at the stage, or what was the situation back then?
Yeah, so the setup with Basketball Ireland is under 16. We had a team, and I made that. I'd say I was the 12th man. Like I was got a couple minutes off the bench. I was very kind of small, skinny kid, very kind of skills underdeveloped. So yeah, and then obviously there was no team for my under 18 or under 20, which like I could be a bit salty about saying like, oh, I missed these opportunities to be exposed for exposure and stuff. But I actually think looking back on it, it made me more hungry to make the senior team because I was like, I didn't get these opportunities of being under 18s and under 20s, so I have to make up for it now. But yeah, so I had under 16 international team and rode the bench a bit, played a bit, but was a great experience.
Now, Lorcan saying obviously for many of our listeners are not in Ireland, so for those who don't know, there was basically a dark age for Irish basketball that happened with the economic bust around the 08 2010 phase where we didn't have international teams in this country for about 5, 6 years, like at any level. So that was a bit problematic, is one way of putting it. And so like Lorcan's obviously part of that generation. So for you, like, where did because obviously you were taking it basketball more seriously because if you were going to play Super League, you had to be. So how did you end up, in Templeogue, having been in Raiders all your young times?
Yeah, so I actually ended up going to a Division 3 college in America very briefly. I lasted a couple months only because I was kind of the setup didn't really suit me in terms of the academic side of things, and I wasn't going to class. And obviously, without going to class, you're not allowed to play ball. So I ended up coming back here and just kind of working part time for a year before heading to college here. So I was looking for a team, and I actually went tried to join UCD Marion first, and they'd already accepted 3 players from Raiders that year, and I think the rule is you can't accept
Yeah,
more
there
than
was a
three.
transfer limit, yeah.
Yeah. So then the next closest one to me was either Aina or Templeogue. And Templeogue were kind of our enemies growing up, so I was a bit reluctant to join them. But I reached out and went down to train with them, and then kind of stayed there for the next decade and really enjoyed it. Made great friends.
And that's because you had quite a time there. But I'm gonna start ask about the art before we get into Templeogue time. So you have this passion for art going back a long time. Like I have one of your t-shirts stored somewhere. Let's just say I've outgrown it, and I don't mean that stylistically, folks. I may have been barely fitting it when I first bought it, but like, where did the passion for art come from?
Yeah, as a kid, that was kind of my thing. Like, even during school and stuff, any class I'd just be drawn away, and art was always my favorite. It was the only one I really like cared deeply about. So when I came back, did a degree in art, which is kind of like the modern kind of art approach in college. Unfortunately, I think doesn't suit everyone. It was very like technology based, whereas I'm a big fan of the classical kind of painting and drawing skills. But anyway, I did the undergrad in that, and then I did a master's in education in order to be able to teach art. But I have a great kind of passion for classical painting and drawing, and that's kind of like my pastime when I'm trying to rest from training, recover. I just like to sit around and draw or paint or stuff like that.
And like for you, because obviously it's great that you're doing this. Have you ever tried to bring your skills in art into your sports? Like because we're going to be asking about the athletics in a bit. Have you ever said to like Raiders or Temple Oak or Dundrum South Dublin, guys, I could redesign the jersey if you want. Have you ever thrown that by them?
I think as much as I'd love it, yes, but my experience kind of with I've done some like commercial work for cafes, clubs, businesses where you're painting the shutters, and my experience with all that stuff is yes, it's good, and yes, you get a lot out of it, and sometimes it ends positive, like they're very happy with it. But I find a lot of times people don't actually know what they want as much, and you just end up trying to please them for something that can't really be pinned down. And sometimes it all clicks, it works perfect, but other times I don't feel like it's as rewarding as just I like doing my own art, giving people the confidence and the skills to create their own art, and it's just a little bit more free. So while I would love that, I don't think my idea of what could be a cool jersey or what might align with others. And I kind of like keeping those parts of my life separate too, where it's like I can switch off completely from basketball, like my art, and then keep them separate.
That's remarkably healthy. I should think about that in my life. But I suppose you're teaching art though, of course. So do you try and keep that philosophy with the youngsters you're teaching?
Yeah, like my kind of philosophy is basically instill confidence in them in their own ability, but in order to get that and be able to for them to express themselves, they need the basic skills. So it's all great doing this conceptual modern art approach, but in reality, unless you have the skills to express yourself, you're never going to fulfill what you could as an artist. So I'm always big on like same when I'm coaching kids, big on the confidence element, and then the skills in which that they grow and grow in confidence, and then they're able to kind of go out on their own and take their own paths, like rather than controlling them completely, give them the freedom to kind of carve their own way.
Now I'm bringing you back to basketball because that journey with Temple Oak, that team you were on, was so fun to watch. Obviously the first season or two up in the top flight was tough for you all because it was a huge adjustment, very young side. But then as you started to go up, like, did you feel you were going from being this team which was like, going out there with people expecting them to lose to being, oh damn, Temple Oak's our opponent this week. Did you feel that yourself?
Yeah, like I think there was 2 or 3 years there where I kind of felt like we were undefeated, like mentally, like we might lose again, but we'd always be like, yeah, we know why. But like we had the likes to say Paul Cummins, Jay Killeen, Steve James, Connor Grace, me, Neil, and then that's just the Irish guys, and then you're adding in pros as well. So really, we just felt like I don't think at the time I appreciated how deep we were as a team and how cohesive we were. Like we were all mates, like genuinely mates, and still are, which is kind of rare to find. And we all get along too.
And one thing you've mentioned a couple of times is you're referring to sort of your younger days, you being tiny. You're not tiny though, is the thing. So when did you shoot up in height? Because you're a reasonably tall dude now. Like for a 2-3 is where you typically played. Like you were perfectly normal height. So when did you suddenly have this boost?
Yeah, I was like 5'8" up until fifth and sixth year. Then I grew to about 5'10", 5'11", and then after school I grew like another 2 or 3 inches.
Yeah, because you're about like
Um,
6'2", 6'3", aren't
I'm
you? Like
6'2" now, yeah. But like I left school at 18. I think I was like 5'10", 5'11", and then I just grew up to 6'2", which was kind of lucky for me because in basketball it doesn't sound like that much, but I think it's a big difference from being a two guard that's 5'10" and a two guard that's 6'2". So I was kind of blessed that way. I just got lucky because both my parents are quite small as well.
I was going to say because like if you're 5'8", you're a point guard. That's the only thing you can do. So
Hmm.
if your ball security isn't good, you're not getting minutes.
Yeah.
Whereas you have other things you can bring into it if you're those 5, 6 inches taller. Like it's unfortunate, but it is the case. So like because I was there for your league title win, I was there for your two cup wins. Like that era for you, like did you feel sort of how did you feel as a player in that? Because obviously you had some wonderful moments.
Yeah, I was young and like I think at the time, especially the early ones, I was just like, oh yeah, this is great. Every year we're gonna do this. Like we're gonna win the cup. Especially my first cup, I don't think I was like mentally ready for it. I think I only scored a few points, played a few minutes, was in foul trouble. So then the second time that cup opportunity rolled around, we had Mike Bonaparte as well that year. I was like completely locked in. I knew I was like studied every single player on the other team, every single player on our team, kind of like what way would this go? How are they gonna guard me? And like I felt like I took the first 2 years for granted, and then like mentally maybe matured a little bit, which gave me the confidence to step my game up a level. And then also I was kind of wanted to be in the moment and play the game, but also be able to take in these experiences because obviously they're not going to be around forever. Like I'd say, I played 10 years and got to three cup finals, and that's like very good for in the Irish League. So I just wanted to kind of appreciate every single moment in the later years, but definitely in the first few years took it for granted.
Well, like I remember that first league title you won it in the Oblet, and like obviously for me, seeing Puff finally win a big trophy after all the years was great. But one of the images I have seared in my head is you and Michael. I was just snapping photos ever sitting on the bench at full time, absolutely shattered, but both of you smiling. But you both look like couldn't be happier and couldn't be deader at the same time. Is how I think about that. Also, and for those who don't know, Mike Bonaparte, no man was better at making himself look really, really old on the court while delivering. Like that guy, because like he was over 30 when I first started seeing him play. Well, like late 20s, sorry. But I'm certain that when this guy was 16, he was like finding a way to make himself look 50. That was a skill he had to look like it was going. Then it's like, oh no, it's still got it, still got it. So like, yeah, it's extraordinary. And then of course the Irish team came back. So when you got into that, that must have been a huge buzz as well.
Yeah, like again, I think that I was just taking it for granted. I was like, this is my goal, I'm gonna work for it. And then I made it. I was like, deadly, I'm on the team. And then obviously the first few years was very strong and I was still only I think 20, 21 at the time or something like that. So I obviously I didn't play every game, I only got a few minutes in some games, but I think the minutes I got, I did well in. And then the experience of just going abroad, being in a tournament, the small nations at the time, and just getting to know the guys, the setup was really good for me. So I think uh, tough start for me, but a necessary one as well. So you don't just come in. Obviously, I thought I'd come in, I'd play maybe a similar role to Temple Oak, but no, it's very different when you get all the big guys together on the same team.
But oddly, you reminded me of sort of it would have been the US team, I think it was the 2012 edition, where they deliberately brought Harden along because they needed somebody who was used to coming off the bench because they realized they didn't actually have players of the skill required for the US who actually had familiarity with not starting. And it's like, oh, James Harden actually fits that role perfectly. We're definitely bringing him. So sort of, it's the mindset does matter because you can be a great two guard, you can be a great three, but if you're not used to to being on the bench, there's a mental adjustment when you're coming into a game rather than playing those starting minutes. And I'm saying this is a guy who's never been a baller. Like most teams I've played, I was off the bench, but I could see it with teammates of mine who were good. It's like, oh man, I got to be an impact player now, and it's a different mindset, really, isn't it?
Yeah, a completely different mindset. But I actually think, especially in my later years with the Irish team, I started to really enjoy that role because with Temple Oak, I could be playing 38, 40 minutes a game. and I'd have to kind of be aware of everything I was doing and like how much can I give on defense here, how much can I give. But when I came in for those 4 minute blocks in the Irish team for those bursts, I could actually just leave it all out there, and I mightn't get back in, but that's fine. I might get two or three of those in a game, but like you could come in and you could gas yourself and go out. Obviously, there's positives in playing more minutes, but that I actually feel like that role suited me well.
Yeah, it's like you actually make me think of Andy Obst for the German national team, who has that freedom to know that he doesn't have to worry about the tank running low because there will be a time for him to sit. Whereas, with other clubs now, he has it with Bayern now, but with other clubs in the past, he had to be a bit more mindful of what was in the tank. Whereas, like you're saying, with the national team, you didn't have to worry as much. Now, gonna go to the height of your national team time, the small countries in, of course, the weirdest international tournament of my time, because I was one of the few people there who wasn't playing or coaching, because of course it was during COVID. But that small countries tournament, like, because you were properly enclosed as a team. So what was that like for you, that like week basically together?
Yeah. Again, bizarre for us. I look back on the photos and I think like, geez, it's so sad we couldn't pack out the arena and have that like Irish kind of pride, and the fans are all so good to us there. But yeah, it was so strange. To be honest, I felt it quite taxing. Just being stuck we were in the Louis Fitzgerald Hotel and we weren't allowed to leave. So I think it was just over 2 weeks we were there in total, and we couldn't even go to the shop to get stuff and come back. Like we just weren't allowed to leave the hotel at all. Just bus to the arena and back. And like, lucky most of the guys, like we had a good time. We got on. We had pool or ping pong tournaments and stuff like that. And I think we had like the cinema room downstairs where you could play FIFA and stuff. But it was just I found that way harder than the actual basketball element, was being able to be captured in that little bubble for the 2 weeks. I like my freedom and I like to get out, walk in the mountains, swim, get fresh air. Like, and just being. I look back at that and I actually, when every time I drive by the Louis Fitzgerald Hotel, I think of it. And I'm like, I hate that place just because we were trapped there for so long. But yeah, like I think it built us as a team, but mentally it was quite taxing.
So, like, it's all been joy so far. Like, you've got your passion for art, you've grown as a baller, you're playing for Ireland, it's won titles with Temple Ug, you've won small countries. Lorcan knows where I'm going, and I kind of have to. So, you're having all these highs. We've just got into the Eurobasket process and all that. And then, I mean, what happened? Like, I mean this in the nicest way, like, because I wasn't there, thankfully, because I don't know, when you're a journalist, you don't want to see the terrible things up front. You broke your neck in a game. So what happened, and like what was going through your mind when it went down? Like,
Yeah, so literally it was actually like a freak kind of accident. I was in the gym just working out like normal, and I kind of like my feet kind of slipped on a mat, and I
oh, sorry,
fell
I thought it
back.
was in game. That's my bad. Sorry, I
No,
thought it was
no,
in game.
no, it was during the season. We had played like two games that season, but I was just in the gym, slipped back, and I kind of landed just like on the flat of my back, but more weight on my neck, and my kind of head compressed down towards my chest, and it like cracked. And I thought nothing of it at the time. I was like, "Geez, that's a weird sensation." Stood up, and I was like, something felt kind of wrong. But anyway, I went home, and I was like, surely I didn't like tear a ligament or break my neck. And I was like Googling. It's like, no, you'd know if you broke your neck. So then I went I went to bed that night, and then I was in bits, but I went to sleep or whatever. Woke up and I could barely move, and I was like, couldn't sit up in the bed without using my arms to push me up. I was like, something's not right here. And I was just thinking I've torn ligaments in my neck or something. So I went to work actually, and I found myself during the day using my hand to hold my neck up because I had no strength in my neck muscles anymore. And then I was like, all right, I actually rang my man. I was like, do you think I should go get this checked out in hospital, or do you think I'm good to go training? And
Oh my God.
she was like, please just get it checked out. Even if you're late to train, and just go and get an X-ray or something. So I went to get an X-ray, and I was sitting in the waiting room for the results. And your man comes out and he goes, "Don't move. We're gonna get you a bed. You need to lie fully flat." And it turned out I had three breaks in vertebrae C5 and C6, which was like a couple of millimeters away from being quadriplegic, like paralyzed. And they were like, I was in during the day stretching to try to loosen it up, and they were like, if you moved the wrong way, you were done. And then I was like proper panicked. Like
Yeah, as
I thought I
anyone
was,
should be, by the way. That is the
yeah,
healthy reaction.
yeah. So that was just shock. Like, and then they put me in a full body brace, so it's from my waist up and up all the way up into my neck, and I couldn't take it off for sleeping or showering or anything for minimum 5 months. I think it was October, November, December, January, 4 months, and then yeah, I was like just shocked, but luckily it didn't need surgery, and I actually made a full recovery, but they were saying at the time that I was like incredibly lucky that it was this close. I feel pretty unlucky, sitting there in a full body brace. But yeah, I guess in hindsight, very, very lucky.
Well, yeah, so this is audio, not video, so you didn't see what Lorcan did see, which was my jaw just actually agape at the bits when he's mentioning the whole you were this close to being a quadriplegic.
Hmm.
And I'm like, holy moly, because I knew it was bad because I, like, I'd spoken to your ma a couple of times during it, wishing you the best and all that. Because, like, with basketball in this country, you get to meet everybody. And so when I chatted to your ma, your dad, and your girlfriend, obviously, well, now your fiance, congratulations
Hmm.
on that.
Thank you.
And, it's like, kind of going, oh yeah, he's feeling better, feeling better. But I'm thinking, okay, if he ever comes back, to any level of sport, that's great. That he's walking, that's a miracle. So remind me again, what month was it you broke your neck, and when did you come back? Because if I recall, it was the same season.
Yeah, so I broke my neck in October, 2 games into the season, and I got back. I think it might have been February, late February that I was back playing.
Okay, I gotta ask, what was Mark's reaction to you saying I can play again? Because Mark Keenan, like then Irish national coach, then Temple Oak coach, you go to him, hey, I'm okay to play after again a broken freaking neck, to borrow the phrase from Kurt Angle. It's like I would have been kind of going, dude, there's next season, like, to you, that I would have been all out there. What was his reaction to that like?
Yeah, so initially they had told me like, listen, get used to the idea of never playing again, like
Hmm.
contact sport especially, like if you can run again, you'll be doing well. But I was just turning up to training all the time with the lads, and I was sitting there in the brace, and then a couple of weeks in, I started dribbling, and then I started shooting on the side, and then I was like doing my own workouts in the brace, and I started lifting weights, and I was still in the brace at this time, and then one of my mates has a video. I think it's like couple months in and I'm just shooting around. And I'm like, you know what? I think I'll be able to dunk in the neck brace still. And I have video of me like two hand dunking it in the brace. And at that point, I was like, all right, I'll probably be able to go back playing.
Oh, okay, I
Um,
gotta ask, how did your well now fiance react to seeing you, video of you dunking with a neck brace on? Because I'd have been furious at my other half, like for that, like.
I didn't shower for a few weeks, and then I think one of my mates was talking about it, and she's like, "What? You fucking idiot!" Like, so, but yeah, she came around to the idea. Well, so I kind of started then. As soon as the brace was off, I was in a bit of decent shape, so I did a little bit of gym work and a little bit of running, and I was obviously so eager to get back playing. So Mark let me join in, but do no contact drills, just like our four corner warm ups and all that, like normal boring stuff that everyone's used to. Um, and each day, then I'd push it a little bit more. And then it got to the point where I was doing full trainings and full warm ups and then just sitting on the bench and watching the games. And I think eventually Mark just felt bad for me sitting there the whole time and let me play. But he was very cautious, and he was very he did talk to me a lot about it as a person rather than like, listen, we don't need you for the basketball side of things. There's a lot more important, like your life can go on outside of basketball. This is just such a minor thing. So he was very good that way and accommodating. But I think eventually we just met to the same point where we're like, all right, we think we're ready. And I only got maybe the last 3 games of the season. But to still get back at all, I was
Yeah, getting
delighted.
back at all is amazing. Like, same
Hmm.
season is unreal. Again, like, because I remember when I found out you were back playing, I was like looking at, I don't know who it was, but like, it was like, because it wasn't the game you were playing in. Because someone said, oh yeah, like, it was like Lorcan's back playing. I was like, what? I was at a game, just an absolute shock. Like, I was delighted, but still utterly surprised. So you got back with the national team, but you decided to sort of, wind down the basketball side of things. So tell us about sort of, what it meant to you to get back out there playing properly for Tipperary and to get those last couple of Ireland caps.
Yeah, so when that all happened, I wrote down a list of things because they said, you probably never get back playing. Stuff I hadn't accomplished that I wanted to in basketball, and then stuff I hadn't accomplished athletically, wherever it may be, in athletics or basketball or whatever. And the first one on the list was to get back and represent Ireland um, for basketball. And yeah, so when that opportunity came up, I worked so hard. Like I was training 2, 3 times every day, watching everything I ate just to get back to play. And like I made the team, and we had the new jerseys at the time. I was very into those ones with the Celtic design. So
Oh
it's like,
yeah.
right, yeah, that'll be nice to have framed on the wall at some point. But yeah, we got back, and then we get Croatia in our group, and I'm like, amazing. We get to play a great team. First game back, and I was so pumped for it. And like, I don't know, I never talked to the lads about this, or you mightn't know it at the time when I was saying, but it was very like emotional for me. I was just so happy to be able to come back and play. I didn't care what happened. I just went out and played, and I think like I actually they're probably two of my best games were two Croatia games. And I think that is because I was just happy to be there. I let go, I put in the work, and yeah, it was very emotional for me. But like outwardly, I wouldn't show that, but it was like a very big accomplishment personally.
Oh, I can tell you, anybody who was sitting around through the press area was like, "Oh my God, he's back! It's amazing." It was like, for us, it was this wonderful, heartwarming story. You decided to wind down both from playing at a top level in basketball, though, after that. So, like, what year was this sort of that you actually decided, right, I need to park this and change up? Like,
Yeah, so I think that was 22 when we played Croatia, and then I played one more season, the 23 season, and we had an international break in the middle, where I played there as well. And then my other goals on that list were to complete a decathlon and like some smaller goals within the events, and then to represent Ireland in a different sport. So I was like, all right, if I don't do this now, I'm 29, 30. So if I don't do this now, I'll probably never do it competitively.
okay,
Um,
I got to cut in there because when you said completed a decathlon, because the thing, there's one thing to go. I want to change sports. Now, for the very few of you who aren't highbrow listeners of this show, a decathlon, as you may tell from the name, is 10 sports together over 2 days. So, what made you decide I'm going to do a decathlon?
so I'd always been a huge fan of like those decathletes and multi-event athletes, and watching the Olympics growing up. I just thought that's like the hardest thing you can do. It's very like technically difficult, but physically so demanding. Like not in the same way maybe a marathon or a triathlon would be, because that's more endurance, but just this like I don't even think until you do stuff like that, I didn't have a true grasp of how hard it was because it's full like flat to the mat, intense in every event, max effort. But I was just like, you know what? Even if I'm not competitive, to be able to complete one will be a nice challenge. So at least it was like a foot in the door in a way that I didn't have to be super competitive. Like if you go in and you want to run 100 meters, unless you're running like 10:7 or below, you're not going to be competitive really. So with that, I knew I could go in and just do it and have fun doing it, and it would still be physically difficult.
And like, had you done track and field in the previous, like, well, decade, really? Like,
No, I just done the high jump I spoke about earlier as a kid and never anything else. So it was
oh, okay,
tall
so
pass.
you hadn't been a regular sprinter and you're coming in, you can rock up a 10-7 out of nowhere. So it's like, now, because like, actually, before we get back into that, so the one thing I haven't touched on enough of the basketball is you always could jump really, really high. Did the high jump play a role in that, do you think?
I think they both kind of benefited each other because I'd be doing like plyometric training in the off season with the idea of being able to jump high, and then it would also benefit my basketball. I think naturally I was lucky enough to have that ability, but I did a lot of work to grow it. And I think with the I couldn't sit around during the summer because I had the high jump. I was like, oh yeah, I still have to be able to jump high, so I was still doing work, and then that kind of stuck with me as a adult. I was like, yeah, I like that side of training, the plyometrics, the sprint based, the explosive stuff, which I think translated very well, luckily for me, for both athletics and basketball.
So bringing it back to the decathlon. So when did you first do one? Like, when was your first actual, right, I'm actually entering a decathlon?
So the whole time my goal was the national championships in the summer. So I've only ever actually done one decathlon, and it was the national championships which I won.
So, oh, for goodness sake, because I didn't realize that was your first decathlon. As you
Mhm.
can tell, like, because I figured he had a couple of trial runs at club level, maybe along the way, and then we go nationals. So you went to DSD saying, "I'm going to enter the decathlon," and they said, "Ah, yeah, you'd be grand, Lorcan." Like, were your coaches saying anything to you there or what?
So like I had different coaches for every event, and like they'd see that maybe I was decent at that event, but they're like, "Come on, at decathlon, like you should probably try learn one event, maybe two, not 10 in your first season." So they were kind of at the start a bit apprehensive and a bit like, "Come on, maybe come back to earth with us here." But then in the indoors, there's actually an indoor heptathlon, which is 7 events. So I did do that in the nationals, which was I took as a trial run. But I think after that, I'd put up some good scores in the events. Then they're like, okay, this guy actually could complete a decathlon maybe in the summer. So
And how did the heptathlon, the indoor, go for you?
so I came second in the nationals, but I
Which again,
went
your
down.
first ever one, right?
Yeah, yeah. But I've they include pole vault and hurdles, which are two of the events I find the most difficult because they are technically so hard. But obviously, when there's only 7 events, those two events are weighted more
Hmm.
because there's 7 instead of 10, so it was more difficult. And I went into the kilometer race at the end of the heptathlon indoors, down by a certain amount of points that I would have to win by 17 seconds over the kilometer to win overall. And I gassed it, like I say, harder than I've ever tried anything. And I ended up winning by 15 seconds, collapsing on the ground, getting sick everywhere, and then still finishing second. So I could have jogged around and got the same result. But I made a bit of a show for the people watching there that day. They had a nice laugh at me.
trust me, I'm sure whoever's commentating absolutely was delighted because they always like to have a bit of drama. And so that decathlon, the national championships, because obviously the way it's run, the decathlon is not held on regular national championship weekend. It's a week before, if I'm right. So
Mhm.
for you going into that, like, what was it like? What was the competition like? And when did you realize, oh, I might actually win this?
Yeah, so there's the level, like obviously there's one or two guys in the States who'd be very good as well. Like kind of they won't come back for it. So they would be in the NCAA system competing there and they'd be very good. But anyway, the ones in Ireland, there's two or three very guys that are very good at all events, but they don't have like that one standout event where they'd be incredible. So I knew going in, there was about two guys I had to beat and one main guy who'd been the champion the last 3 years. So I'd have to beat him, and in order for that to happen, I'd need to run a really fast, have a really good first day, which is the 100 meters, long jump, high jump, and shot put, and 400, which would be my stronger events. So I knew I had to beat him, and when I ran my first event, which was the 100 meters, I ran a 10.37. And once I did that, that's 1,000 points just for that one event. So I was like, okay, we could be onto something here. And then my kind of goal for it was just to keep track of where his best was, his PB for overall events, and see if I could beat it. And just stay on course to do that. And luckily enough, I did.
Okay, because when you said 10.37, I raised my eyebrows because back in the 90s, which people might go that's ancient history, but like if you went sub 10.4, that was Olympic standard qualifying. It's now 10 even, but still, like we are, you're only a couple of decades removed from when Lorcan just casually went out. And again, remember, a guy who was not a 100-meter sprinter casually ran a 10.37. That is not to be sniffed at. So you do that, it all goes great. And because again, high jump was your event, but you enter the 100 meters instead of the nationals the following week. So explain this to me, basically.
Yeah, so basically in the indoors, I had done the high jump and the 60 meters, and I finished second in the indoors in high jump. And I knew on my best day I'm going to finish second because the top guy, he's always going to be up around 220 or whatever, so I'm not going to be there. So I was like, okay, I've got my medal in the indoors for the high jump. So what I want to do then is enter the 100 meters on the Sunday, and just have energy for that because the high jump was on the Saturday, so it would have kind of tired me out a bit. So basically, obviously wrecked from the decathlon. I was training on Wednesday and I twinged my groin a little bit, my hip flexor, and I was like, oh no. But anyway, rested up and went into that Sunday, and like I wasn't letting on, but I was actually in a fair deal of pain, and each race got worse. So we had the heats. I won my heat. We had the semi final. I won my semi final, and I couldn't even warm up for the final. It was so bad. So I was just sitting in the indoor track, did two strides, and then just waited to be called out. And then in the final, lucky for me, Israel Olatunde, the fastest Irishman ever, actually picked up an injury himself in the semis, and he pulled out, which meant like if I was in full health, I would have been fighting for the third spot anyway. And now I know with him gone, okay, there is a medal there to be had. And luckily enough, I just about got it, which is brilliant.
I love the way how self-deprecating this all is because it's like, well, this went right from this went right from. Remember, folks, go back in this. He had a broken neck and he hadn't done athletics in 10 years, and he'd only ever done the high jump before, and he's just rocking up here with 1 year's training and doing this. So you mentioned there are other sporting things you want to do. Before we get to that, what is your PB now at the 100?
It's 10.37 is my best. Yeah.
Okay, is have you thought of this is something I can focus on, or I could potentially like go to a Euros or something, or not necessarily in that, or the decathlon or anything? Have you thought about potentially representing Ireland in athletics?
Yeah, so my coach is obviously they're encouraging me to focus on sprints as well. I do like the multi events, but like if I can get that right now, it's on the standard to get on the relay team, the 4x1 relay team. So if I was selected for that, there's the possibility of qualifying for Euros with the relay team, or if I was to get a little bit faster, there are individual possibilities too. But I actually just got a call yesterday about there's a small decathlon tournament for England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales coming up in September, and they've asked would I like to represent Ireland in that. So I think I'm going to do that first. Try to get healthy for that, and then that was kind of one of my goals was to represent Ireland.
And you'll be
Anyway,
doing that now, so that's amazing.
yeah, so that's the plan, and then after that, I probably will need to take a week or two off properly just to recover, and then I will focus on next year's goals. Indoors, maybe do keep up some multi events, and then focus on the sprints for the outdoor season. Because I feel like the multi events with all the throwing and the jumping, it kind of gives you a nice strength base for all events.
And I gotta ask, like, because now I know your parents are really sporty. Is your fiance big into doing sports at all?
No, sure, she wouldn't run anywhere, like, and she'd tell you that as well. But she loves watching sports. She's a big basketball fan. She's a big athletics fan now, and she gets to know all the other athletes, and she'll be telling me, "Oh, this guy's doing this and this," and she'll kind of keep me up to date on what I need to be doing to get to certain levels. And then she's also um, I jokingly call her my nutritionist, but in fairness to her, she's very good. Like she'll make these like protein meals, these like snack stuff, and she'll send them to me throughout the day and be like, eat this at this time. You can train then 2 hours after, and it's just we have a laugh about it, and I kind of slag her over, but it actually is a blessing. Like I'm so
I
lucky
was
to have
gonna
her
say
around me.
it sounds like the ideal relationship because again, it's like I would have the similar view to your fiance of how much actual sports I want to play, but the amount I want to watch is a very different level entirely. So she sounds exactly like similar mindset to me, but and now she's adding on all the and here's what you should be eating, here's what you shouldn't be eating. It's like, oh, cheers, yeah, great.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, basically you don't have to do any thinking. I mean, that's like ideal for me. So is athletics going to be the focus from now on, or is there a possibility something else comes up? Because I think, given the way you've been talking, that's not something I can rule out. So, what are you thinking possibly for the next couple of years?
Yeah, I think it's now for next 2 or 3 years while I'm still at the kind of age where I will be able to be competitive is just to really throw myself into it and get as far as I can. I know I'm starting late, but like, sure, why not give it a full bash and then maybe when I'm in masters, try juggle both basketball and athletics. Might be a nice idea, but for now, definitely next few years, I'm just going to throw myself in fully and see where I can go. Because to be honest, I had goals for this year with the events, and pretty much all the ones that I worked hard for, I have surpassed, which is just inspiring to keep going.
Absolutely. Now, this is coming out probably after that event you're having. It's because it's going to be out after Eurobasket. But obviously, best of luck at the event, and we'll hope you will have done well by then. Obviously, you should all be looking up Lorcan at that stage if you haven't already, folks. One last thing I want to ask you about, I want to bring it back to basketball because again, you've been through all this, and I think most people have found this pretty inspirational who've been listening because it's like he did this, and he's like, you're still so self-deprecating, which is amazing. Like for me, are you coaching still, or would you like to see yourself going into coaching more?
Yeah, so I actually coach both athletics and basketball in my
Of
school.
course you do.
Yeah, in Loretto Fox Rock, I have the first, second, and third years in basketball, and I have all the years in athletics. So I am coaching, but in fairness, like at the school level, a lot less technical. I'm more there to kind of guide them and give them basic skills. But I have a great time with them. Like we have a great laugh, and a lot of the kids are the ones I'm teaching anyway. So you have a relationship with them, and again, it's like they mightn't be club players, they mightn't have these basketball skills before. So just to see them, they score a layup and they think they're LeBron James, So it's just brilliant.
Oddly, it sounds an awful like the way you described your approach to teaching, which I love as well. Lorcan Murphy, this has been fantastic. I know an awful lot of people are going to want to be able to find you online after this. So, for people who want to follow what you're doing, to see what you do, where can they find you?
Yeah, I guess I don't have much social media, but I'm on Instagram quite a bit. Lorco Duck, as I did have three pet ducks previously who have now
So,
left us.
that's what the duck thing comes from. Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, for those of you, thanks for joining us after what was our Eurobasket break, because the idea of releasing podcasts, folks, during the busiest 3 weeks of European basketball every 4 years was something I decided was a disastrous idea. So I opted against that. And of course, you can find Ball in Europe everywhere as Ball in Europe on all platforms apart from Instagram, we're ballineurope.com. Huge thanks to my guest, Lorcan Murphy. And of course, I will chat to you all again very, very soon. Barely Hoops is a Ball in Europe production. Our theme music is Deep Feelings, licensed from Artlist.